I've been doing leadership training now for 42 years, and that includes hundreds of classes. And I'll never forget, after I'd been doing some leadership training for a while, I did a program for the National Security Agency in Maryland. And as I was doing the program that day, I noticed something I'd never seen in another leadership program. They would come, a couple of the staff would come and get one of the students and take him or her out, and they would be gone for maybe 45 minutes or so, and then they would bring the student back in. So after a couple of hours of this, I went to one of the staff members and I said, "Why are you pulling individuals out of class?" He said, "Well, one of the requirements of this course that everyone that works around you before you come to this class has to fill out a 360 evaluation." And well, I'd never heard of that. And I said, "What does that mean?" It said, everybody below you, around you, and a couple above you have to fill out a anonymous evaluation of your communication skills, your problem solving, and those type of leadership characteristics. I said, "You're kidding me." He said, "No." He said, and that's what we're doing. We're going over what other people said about how this person is really doing, not what they think they're doing. He said, when they come back in next time, when I bring another one out and then bring him back in the class, he said, watch the expression on their face. He said, you will see a look of uh, kind of shock, trying to comprehend what just happened. He said, because what is happening is for the first time, most of them are getting to know how they're really doing, not how they think they're doing. I said, why do you do these 360 evaluations? He said, to bring them back to reality. Because until we understand how we're doing and where we're weak and where we're doing the right thing, we can't improve and continue to grow and progress. He said, now they'll listen in class. We do this in the class so they will listen and say, yeah, I need to learn to do that. And so I was intrigued by that. And I did another presentation for an agency in Colorado, and I found out they were doing the 360 evaluations. I asked if I could see a copy and was fascinated by it. Basically, it had, and it was interesting, the title of it was a development survey. And the instructions were very interesting. This is what it said. Please provide feedback to your supervisor to help him or her do a better job. It wasn't, this is your opportunity to nail your supervisor for being a jerk. It was a very positive thing. Offer help and assistance to your supervisor. So think about this for a minute. Who should evaluate sergeants? And I bet, throughout much of my career, the person who evaluated sergeants was the lieutenant. The lieutenant probably spends very little time with the sergeant, but the staff, the detectives or police officers or deputies, they spend a lot of time with the sergeants. They know how they're doing. All right, so let's take this a little further. Who should be evaluating lieutenants? Sergeants who work for the lieutenant and every police officer, detective, etc., that works for those sergeants. And it keeps going up. It never stops, even at the captain level, or that basically everyone who is impacted by the person being evaluated gets a chance to provide feedback and help, and if sometimes criticism about how they're doing as a leader. Why are these effective? Because the number one problem I've seen in agencies is that employees do not feel comfortable telling their supervisors and managers when they're being stupid. We tell each other at the operational level, sometimes, most of the time, I would say, when we're being an idiot or getting too angry or taking things too personal. But once a person is a supervisor, staff feels that they have no right to say anything because this is their superior, this is their boss. We lose the reality of how we're really doing by the men and women that know us the best of how we're doing. I know when I taught in the university system, who filled out my evaluations? The students. They had to spend the semester with me. They're the ones that knew if I did my job or not. And it makes perfect sense. And it overcomes that natural fear of being honest with people. It has also it's a multitude of people. So if somebody's got a problem with the sergeant because the sergeant had to discipline them, it's okay because 12 people are filling out the evaluation. And if one person says the sergeant's a jerk, but the other 11 says they're doing a good job, then what do we know about the sergeant? They're doing a good job. So it's the group dynamics and that allow a honest assessment of how a supervisor is doing. It also, if you think about it, as these police officers, detectives, or sergeants who are evaluating lieutenants, they're filling out these characteristics of leadership that remind them of what they should be doing or they will be doing when they get promoted. So, in a way, it's a leadership development course by having to fill out this form. And I think it is one of the best ways to keep people honest and growing because they know how they're really doing. Please don't underestimate this. All of us are self favoring when we view ourselves. We always give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. We always think we're doing better than we are. And these 360 evaluations allow a person to have those people around them to give them an honest assessment of how they're doing, to encourage them when they're doing the right thing, and to confront them when they're not. What are the implications of this? Very few agencies use 360s, and I made a point of using examples of 360s in both of the books I wrote because most people have never heard of them, but they're very positive. They list the characteristics of leadership, communication, problem solving, and I think that it is a valuable tool to remind people this is what you need to be doing. And one of the examples of this, and it's probably one of the most powerful examples of how you can change a person, is there was a deputy chief in an agency who their department went through 360s because everybody below him had to go through a 360 for him. He had 450 people fill out his evaluation. Imagine that 450 people individually sat down and said, here's how the deputy chief or assistant chief is doing in communication and problem solving and so forth and so on. And guess what? They kicked his butt. 85% of them gave him a negative rating. But listen to what some of the comments, and don't miss this, and it's not just a numerical rating, it is also a comment section for communication, a comment section for solving problems. And under each of the comment sections, this is what some of the comments that were made by these police officers in under this guy's command. Please send photograph next time. We have no idea who the hell this is. And he's supposed to be the uniform division commander. We don't know him. We've never seen him. One guy wrote, oh, we heard he is afraid of the dark because we work at night and I've been on this assignment for 2 years and I've never seen him. One other one said, well, obviously he's not the uniform division commander. He's the uniform division commander for people that work out of headquarters from Monday through Friday from 8 to 5 because we don't work at that time. We don't work out of headquarters. I don't know what to say. Well, you can imagine how he felt when he got nailed by all of these people. And the chief called him in and said, I understand you got nailed. And he said, I certainly did. He said, obviously they nailed me to the wall. He said, I want to make an observation, though. He said, I want to give you some positive. He says, what's the positive about this? He said, 15%, the ones that gave you good ratings, I looked at where they were from. He said they were from headquarters Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. You're a good person, and people that know you like you. The trouble is 85% of the people don't know you because you don't communicate. You don't go out to the rest of the uniform division, which is under your responsibility, but you're not being proactive in communicating with them. And I asked the deputy chief, I said, how did you deal with this? He said, well, I go out every month and I go to a roll call. I go to, let's say it's the shift that gets off at 11 and then they're replaced by the people that start working at 11. I go to their precinct or district or whatever it was called, and I get there early. And as people come in for the ongoing shift, I sit there and talk with them and get to know them a little bit. And we talk individually or kind of in small groups. And he said, then when the other shift comes off duty, I hang out while they turn in their reports and stuff and see how everybody's doing. And I said, what? I said, what kind of hours is that? He said, well, I have to get there about an hour earlier. And normally after shift change, I'm there another hour. I said, so this is at night? He goes, oh, yeah, it's 10 to maybe midnight or 1 in the morning. And then I have to come in during the day sometimes. And you got to remember, I got to do all the little precincts. I said, that's got to be very time consuming. He said, absolutely. And he said, I'll be honest with you. He said, it's hard to get in the car and drive out of my house at 9:30 at night to know I'm going to be gone for the next several hours. But he said, you know what? He said, I never want to do it to begin with, but after I do it, it hits me how blessed I am because I get to meet these men and women and touch base with them every month. And you know what I found? I am truly blessed to have this type of people working for me that do their job, are dedicated. And he said, and I don't want to do it, but after I do it, I am so blessed. And it has totally changed my attitude about my role as a uniform division commander because I get to know these people and spend some time with them. He said, my wife has said, I have totally changed my attitude about the job because I am now talking and spending time with the men and women who do this job. Think about that. It was a gotcha moment of the 360 evaluations that caused this guy to see I am failing to communicate with the people under my supervision and command. And we all need that reminder that this is not about us. We have to pay attention to those whom we're responsible for. What a great example of gathering accurate information and allowing people to help us, all of them to help us do better. That is the advantage of the 360 evaluation. Thanks for joining us on the They to We Leadership podcast. If today's episode helped you think differently about management, take a moment to reflect and then apply it because real leadership isn't what you say, it's what you do next. And the real enemy is our pride and blindness on how we are really doing. Only with the help of others can we truly make an impact on those around us.